fabric of space-time screamed. Commander Shepard gripped the railing of the Normandy SR-2's CIC as reality convulsed around the ship. What had started as a routine mass relay jump through the Omega-4 relay had become something else entirely, something impossible. The view screen showed no stars, no nebulae, no recognizable constellations. Instead, a swirling maelstrom of colors that shouldn't exist tore at the hull like claws. "EDI, report!" Shepard shouted over the deafening groan of stressed hull plating. "Unknown phenomenon, Shepard." The AI's voice remained eerily calm despite the chaos. "We are no longer in Citadel space. Scanners detect no mass relay network, no quantum entanglement beacons, no..." Static burst through the speakers. "Warning, dimensional barrier breach detected. Brace for..." The Normandy lurched violently. Shepard was thrown forward, catching themselves against a console as the ship plunged through something that felt like falling through ice and fire simultaneously. Through the viewport, a planet materialized. Brown, green, scarred with massive craters that glowed faintly, even from orbit. The ship's nose pitched down, atmosphere friction igniting along the hull in brilliant orange streaks. "Kinetic barriers failing," Joker's voice crackled from the cockpit, strained with effort. "I can't pull up. We're going in hot." The Capital Wasteland rose to meet them like a patient predator. 2 centuries after nuclear fire had scoured the Earth, the ruins of Washington, D.C. stretched below. Shattered monuments, collapsed highways, and the skeletal remains of a civilization that had destroyed itself. The Normandy carved a burning trench through the irradiated soil, tearing through the remains of a pre-war suburb. Metal shrieked, systems exploded. The ship finally shuddered to a stop, half buried in toxic earth, smoke pouring from a dozen hull breaches. Silence, then alarms. Red emergency lighting bathed the CIC in blood-colored shadows. Shepard pulled themselves up, tasting copper. Around them, crew members groaned, extracting themselves from where the impact had thrown them. Miranda Lawson, Cerberus's perfect operative, already had her Omni tool active, scanning for casualties. Garrus Vicarian, the Turian sniper and Shepard's closest friend, shook his head to clear it, mandibles flaring in what passed for a grimace. "Everyone alive," Shepard called out. "Define alive," came Joker's reply over the comm. "My chair's intact, if that counts. But Commander, you need to see this." Shepard made their way forward, boots crunching on shattered glass and debris. The cockpit's view screen flickered, then cleared. What it showed made Shepard's blood run cold. Ruins, not the ancient Prothean kind they'd explored, but human ruins, recent by galactic standards, maybe a few centuries old. Buildings collapsed in on themselves, vehicles rusted into abstract sculptures, and everything bathed in a sickly green luminescence that Shepard's military instincts recognized immediately. Radiation. EDI analysis. Scanning. A pause that felt too long. "Shepard, this planet is Earth, or rather, a version of Earth that underwent catastrophic nuclear warfare approximately 277 years ago. Atmospheric radiation levels are 200 times above safety standards. The electromagnetic pulse from the explosions would have destroyed most advanced technology. I am detecting no satellite network, no radio communications consistent with spacefaring civilization. This world is pre-spaceflight and post-apocalyptic." "That's impossible," Miranda said, arriving behind them. "Earth is the heart of the Alliance. There's no scenario where..." "Not our Earth," Garrus interrupted, his voice tight. "Look at the architecture, the vehicles. This is human, but it's wrong. Different aesthetic, like someone took 20th century Earth and froze it in amber before nuking it." Shepard stared at the wasteland. In the distance, something moved. Humanoid shapes shambling through the ruins. Too far to identify, but their gait was wrong, irregular, aggressive. "We're not in our universe anymore," Shepard said quietly. The weight of it settled over the cockpit like a shroud. Stranded, unknown world, unknown threats, and every faction on this dying planet about to discover an intact starship packed with technology that would make them gods. Commander, EDI's voice held something almost like concern. "I am detecting multiple life signs approaching our position, humanoid, armed with primitive ballistic weapons and..." "Shepard, some of them are 8 feet tall, and their biosigns are severely mutated." Through the viewport, figures emerged from the ruins. Ragged humans in makeshift armor, carrying weapons that looked like they'd been assembled from scrap. And behind them, towering green-skinned monsters with muscles like knotted cables, carrying weapons that dwarfed even a Krogan's firepower. "Battle stations," Shepard commanded, voice cutting through the shock. "If you want to see more universes collide, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a crossover you'd want to see in the comments below. Until next time, the multiverse awaits." The words felt almost absurd given their situation, but Shepard had learned long ago that survival started with clear heads and decisive action. And right now, the Normandy, wounded, stranded, and surrounded, needed both. The wasteland had new visitors, and the wasteland was hungry. Outside, a super mutant raised a minigun toward the downed ship and roared a challenge that echoed across the irradiated hellscape. The Normandy's crew scrambled to defensive positions, kinetic barriers flickering to life even as Shepard realized the terrible truth. They were alone. Millions of light years and one-dimensional barrier away from any hope of rescue. The fight for survival had begun. The Normandy's armory had survived the crash intact, one of the few blessings in their nightmare scenario. Shepard moved through the ship's corridors with practiced efficiency, the emergency lighting casting sharp shadows as crew members rushed to battle stations. The hull breach alarms had been silenced, but the damage report scrolling across every intact console told a grim story. "Garrus, take the starboard airlock with a fire team," Shepard ordered, checking the thermal clip in their assault rifle. "Miranda, port side. I want overlapping fields of fire. These hostiles don't know what kinetic barriers are. Let's keep it that way as long as possible." "On it," Garrus replied, his mandibles clicking in what humans had learned to recognize as a combat grin. He grabbed his Mantis sniper rifle, the weapon looking almost delicate in his 3-fingered grip. "Just like old times, Shepard, except usually the locals have spaceships." The ship shuddered as something massive impacted the hull. Not weapons fire, too irregular. Someone was trying to breach manually. EDI, exterior view. The holographic display materialized, showing the nightmare outside in crystalline clarity. Dozens of figures surrounded the Normandy. Humans in crude armor made from scrap metal and leather. Their weapons a bizarre mix of pipe rifles and laser weaponry that looked like it belonged in a museum. But it was the giants that commanded attention. Super mutants, EDI had called them. 8 feet of irradiated muscle and rage, carrying miniguns and sledgehammers that could crack power armor. One of them was climbing onto the hull, its massive hands finding purchase on damaged plating. "Joker, can we get the Guardian lasers online?" Shepard asked. "Negative, Commander. Point defense is completely fried. We're fighting the old-fashioned way." Shepard reached the starboard airlock where Garrus had assembled his team. Grunt, the Krogan battlemaster who lived for moments like this. Jack, the biotic convict whose tattoos seemed to writhe in the red emergency lighting. And Zaid Masani, the scarred mercenary who'd probably fought in wars, older than some of the crew. "Here's the situation," Shepard addressed them quickly. "We're stranded on a post-nuclear Earth that's not our Earth. Radiation levels are lethal to unprotected organics. These hostiles are likely desperate, territorial, and have never seen our technology. We need to establish a defensive perimeter and buy time for damage assessment. Rules of engagement: suppress and discourage, but conserve ammunition. We don't know how long we'll be here." "Screw that," Jack snarled, dark energy crackling around her fists. "I'm gonna paint the wasteland with these freaks." "Jack!" Shepard's voice carried the weight of command. "We're not in the galaxy anymore. Every thermal clip matters. Every medigel packet is irreplaceable, understood?" The biotic's eyes flashed with anger, but she nodded. They all understood the unspoken truth. They were alone. "Breaching in 3, Garrus called out, his Omni-tool interfacing with the airlock. 2, 1. The door hissed open, and the Capital Wasteland rushed in. The smell of ash and decay, the oppressive heat of the irradiated air, and the immediate crack of gunfire. Shepard rolled out, kinetic barriers flaring blue as bullets sparked off the protective field. The technology that was standard issue in their universe might as well have been magic here. The Raiders, because that's clearly what they were, faltered for a split second, seeing their shots deflect from invisible walls. That second was all Garrus needed. His mantis boomed once, and a Raider's head snapped back in a spray of red. The precision was surgical, the result immediate. "Contacts down!" Grunt roared with joy, charging forward with his Claymore shotgun. The Krogan's natural armor and redundant organs made him nearly indestructible, and he knew it. He fired point blank into a cluster of Raiders, the mass accelerator rounds tearing through their makeshift armor like tissue paper. But the super mutants were another story. One of them, scarred and massive even by their standards, leveled a minigun at Grunt and opened fire. The weapon was crude, ballistic, probably 50 caliber, but the sheer volume of lead was staggering. Even Grunt's shields flickered under the onslaught. "Jack, suppressing fire!" Shepard commanded. The biotic grinned viciously and thrust her hands forward. Dark energy exploded from her in a shockwave that sent Raiders flying like leaves, their bodies cracking against rubble. But the super mutant barely staggered, its mutated biology shrugging off what would have killed a human. "These things are tougher than Krogan," Jack shouted, genuine surprise in her voice. Zaid took a knee, his rifle barking in controlled bursts. "Aim for the head, or whatever passes for a brain in those meat tanks." The battle devolved into chaos. More super mutants were climbing over the wreckage now, their roars echoing across the wasteland. One wielded a crude rocket launcher, ancient by Mass Effect standards but still capable of catastrophic damage. The missile streaked toward the Normandy's exposed engine core. "Barrier!" Miranda's voice cut through the combat channel. The operative appeared at the port airlock, her biotic field expanding into a shimmering wall. The rocket impacted the barrier and detonated in a fireball that lit up the twilight wasteland. Miranda staggered but held, sweat beading on her perfect features. "We can't hold this position indefinitely," she called out. "Shepard, we need a plan." Shepard's mind raced, processing variables. They needed information. They needed allies. They needed to understand this world before every hostile faction descended on them. And most critically, they needed to know if returning home was even possible. A raider lunged at Shepard with a crude knife, sharpened rebar wrapped in electrical tape. Shepard's combat training took over. Sidestep, disarm, strike to the throat. The raider went down gasping. Up close, Shepard could see the desperation in his eyes, the radiation sickness evident in his mottled skin. These weren't soldiers. They were survivors, driven by scarcity to attack anything new. "Cease fire," Shepard commanded suddenly. The order was so unexpected that even Grunt paused mid-charge. The raiders, seeing the lull, retreated into the ruins, dragging their wounded. The super mutants, more disciplined than Shepard had expected, fell back as well, but their weapons remained trained on the Normandy. "Commander," Garrus's voice was questioning but trusting. "We just announced ourselves to this entire region," Shepard said, surveying the bodies scattered around the crash site. "Every faction with working eyes is going to investigate. We need intelligence, not corpses. EDI, long-range scan. What else is out there?" "Scanning." The AI's voice remained steady. "I am detecting a fortified settlement 3.7 kilometers northeast. Designation unknown. Population approximately 40 individuals. And Commander, I am detecting power armor signatures approaching from the west. Military grade by local standards. ETA, 6 minutes. Shepard looked at the approaching storm on the horizon, both literal and metaphorical. In the distance, dark shapes moved through the ruins with purpose, organized, disciplined, everyone back inside. "We're not fighting another battle until we know who we're fighting for." The crew retreated to the Normandy, sealing airlocks behind them. Through the viewport, Shepard watched as figures in bulky powered armor emerged from the wasteland. Knights in steel, their armor adorned with a symbol Shepard didn't recognize but whose meaning was clear: authority. The Brotherhood of Steel had arrived, and they wanted answers. The Brotherhood of Steel paladins formed a perimeter around the Normandy with military precision that impressed even Shepard. 6 figures in T-40 power armor, each carrying laser rifles that hummed with barely contained energy. Behind them, scribes in reinforced robes deployed scanning equipment that looked primitive but functional. Vacuum tubes and cathode ray displays, jury-rigged with salvaged components. Through the Normandy's external cameras, Shepard watched their leader step forward. The armor was different from the others, heavier, more ornate, with a distinctive insignia painted on the breastplate. The figure's voice boomed through external speakers, distorted by the helmet's vocoder. "Attention, unknown vessel. This is Elder Owen Lyons of the Brotherhood of Steel, Capital Wasteland Chapter. You will power down all weapon systems and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in immediate hostile action." "Diplomatic," Garrus muttered from his position at the weapons console. "I'm reading energy signatures from those rifles. Primitive laser technology, but concentrated enough to damage our hull in its current state." Miranda stood beside Shepard, arms crossed, her expression calculating. "We could eliminate them. A biotic shockwave would knock them off their feet, and their armor won't protect against mass accelerator rounds at this velocity. And then we'd have an entire faction hunting us," Shepard countered. "We need information more than we need bodies. EDI, open a comm channel." "Channel open, Shepard." "Elder Lyons, this is Commander Shepard of the Systems Alliance vessel Normandy. We mean no harm to you or your people. Our ship was damaged in an accident and we're currently assessing repairs. We're willing to talk, but we won't surrender our vessel. A pause. Shepard could imagine the confusion on the other side. Systems alliance, Normandy, terms that meant nothing in this wasteland. Your vessel is like nothing in pre-war records, Lyons responded, his tone cautious but curious. The technology, it's beyond anything even the Enclave possessed. Where did you come from? Shepard glanced at Miranda, who shook her head slightly. Too much truth would sound like insanity. That's a long conversation, Elder. One better head face to face. I'm willing to meet with you. Neutral ground, limited escort. But I need your word that no one attempts to breach my ship while I'm gone. Another pause, longer this time. Shepard could see the scribes gesturing frantically, their scanning equipment painting the Normandy with sensor beams that EDI casually deflected. Acceptable, Lyons finally replied. There's a collapsed overpass 200 meters north of your position. 1 hour. You bring 3, I bring 3. My word as a Brotherhood elder, your ship will not be touched during negotiations. Agreed. Shepard out. The channel closed. You trust him? Garrus asked, already knowing the answer. Not even a little, Shepard replied, checking their armor seals. But I trust that he's curious, and curiosity buys us time. Miranda, Garrus, you're with me. Grunt, you're in command while I'm gone. No one leaves the ship, and if they breach the perimeter, you have authorization to respond with necessary force. The Krogan grinned, showing rows of teeth. Finally, something I understand. The wasteland air was thick with radiation and ash. Shepard's hard suit filtered most of it, but the Geiger counter built into their Omni-tool was clicking faster than comfortable. They walked through the ruins with weapons lowered but ready, Miranda to the left, Garrus to the right, both scanning for threats. The collapsed overpass was a monument to the old world's death. Massive concrete slabs had fallen across a 6-lane highway, creating a natural shelter from the elements. Brotherhood paladins had already secured the position, their laser rifles tracking the approaching trio with professional discipline. Elder Lyons stood in the center, his helmet removed. The face beneath was weathered and gray-bearded, with eyes that had seen too much and believed too little. 2 paladins flanked him, 1 male, 1 female. Both young but carrying themselves with veteran confidence. Commander Shepard, Lyons said, his voice much clearer without the helmet's distortion. I'll admit, when our scouts reported a falling star that didn't explode on impact, I thought they'd been drinking too much irradiated water. But here you are. And that ship. He gestured toward the Normandy, visible in the distance. That ship is impossible. A lot of impossible things have happened recently, Shepard replied carefully. Elder Lyons, before we discuss my ship, I need to understand where we are. Your people, the Brotherhood of Steel. What's your mission here? The Elder studied Shepard with sharp intelligence. Interesting. You don't know. Either you're a very good liar or you truly are from somewhere else. He gestured to the ruined city around them. This is Washington, D.C., or what's left of it. The Great War happened in 2077. Nuclear fire consumed the world. The Brotherhood's mission is to preserve technology, prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. We protect people when we can, but our primary concern is ensuring humanity doesn't destroy itself again with pre-war weapons. Shepard processed this. 2077. The aesthetic made sense now. The world had advanced technologically but culturally frozen somewhere in the 1950s before the bombs fell. And now, 200 years later, factions fought over scraps. The raiders and super mutants who attacked us, Shepard continued. Their common threats? Raiders are desperate survivors turned predators, the female paladin spoke up. Super mutants are complications, failed pre-war experiments in biological warfare that got loose. They're strong, nearly immune to radiation, and most are hostile. The Brotherhood has been fighting them for years. Garrus's mandibles twitched, his equivalent of a frown. You're fighting a war with laser rifles and powered armor against mutants and raiders. No air support, no orbital platforms, no what? Lyons asked sharply. No reinforcements coming, Garrus finished, glancing at Shepard. The implication was clear. This wasn't just a post-apocalyptic world. It was a world permanently stuck in its apocalypse. We manage, Lyons said with quiet pride. But Commander, let's stop dancing around the real question. Your ship, your armor, your weapons, they're not pre-war technology. They're not even close. The scribe's analysis shows energy signatures we can't classify, materials we've never seen, and propulsion systems that defy our understanding of physics. So I'll ask you directly, where did you come from? Shepard met the Elder's gaze. Truth or lies? Full disclosure or careful omission? The wrong choice could doom them all. We're from another universe, Shepard said simply. Miranda tensed beside them but didn't contradict. Our ship was traveling through a passage between star systems when something went wrong. We ended up here. We don't know how. We don't know if we can get back. And right now, Elder, we need allies more than we need secrets. The Brotherhood paladins exchanged glances. One touched his laser rifle nervously. Lyons remained still, his expression unreadable. Another universe, he repeated slowly, like something from those pre-war science fiction novels, the scribe's catalog. He laughed, a short, sharp bark of sound. A month ago, I would have called you insane and had you detained for psychological evaluation. But I've seen your ship. I've seen those force fields your people used during the Raider attack. And I've spent 30 years in this wasteland learning that the impossible is just the improbable wearing a disguise. He stepped closer, and Shepard tensed, but the Elder simply extended his hand. The Brotherhood's mission is to protect technology and humanity. Right now, Commander, you represent both the greatest technological prize and the greatest humanitarian crisis I've encountered. Your people are stranded, outnumbered, and surrounded by hostiles. My people are fighting a losing war against super mutants, Enclave remnants, and the wasteland itself. So here's my proposal. Temporary alliance. You share some of your knowledge. Medical technology, water purification, anything that helps people survive. And we provide protection, resources, and intelligence about this world. And what about our ship? Miranda asked coldly. What assurance do we have that the Brotherhood won't try to seize it the moment we're vulnerable? The female paladin bristled, but Lyons held up a hand. You have my word as Elder, but more than that, you have logic. Even if we could take your ship, which I doubt, we couldn't operate it. We couldn't maintain it, and we certainly couldn't replicate it. You're more valuable as allies than as prisoners. Shepard considered. It was a risk. But in the wasteland, surrounded by unknown threats, with limited resources and no way home, they needed every advantage. Provisional alliance, Shepard agreed, taking the Elder's hand. The grip was firm, calloused from years in power armor. But Elder, there's something you need to understand. Our technology is dangerous in the wrong hands. Mass accelerator weapons, biotic amplification, AI systems. If they fall into hostile hands, they could make your great war look like a preliminary round. Lyons nodded grimly. Then we keep them out of hostile hands, together. A scribe's voice crackled over the elder's radio. Sir, we're picking up signals. Enclave vertibirds, 3 of them, approaching from the southwest. They're heading toward the crash site. Shepard's hand moved instinctively to their weapon. The Enclave? Remnants of the pre-war government, Lyons explained, his face hardening. They believe in genetic purity, technological supremacy, and the complete eradication of anyone they consider mutant, which includes about 90% of the Wasteland's population. If they reach your ship first, they won't, Shepard said with absolute certainty. Garrus, contact Grunt. Tell him we have incoming hostiles. Authorization code. Weapons free. As they ran back toward the Normandy, the sky began to fill with the sound of rotors. Primitive helicopters armed with missiles and miniguns, bearing down on the most advanced piece of technology to ever touch this world. The real war for the Normandy was about to begin. The vertibirds came in low and fast, their rotor wash kicking up clouds of radioactive dust that glowed faintly in the dying light. From the Normandy's external cameras, Shepard watched 3 of the aircraft circle the crash site like predatory birds, their weapons pods swiveling to track targets on the ground. Grunt, status! Shepard barked into the comm while sprinting through the ruins. 3 flying machines, Commander. The Krogan's voice rumbled with barely contained excitement. Primitive rotary wing design. I count missile pods and ballistic weapons. They're trying to establish air superiority. Don't let them, Shepard ordered. Use the ship's remaining Guardian emplacements, if you can get them online. Otherwise, small arms fire. Bring them down. Finally! Grunt's roar of approval was cut short by the thunder of weapons fire. Elder Lyons ran beside Shepard, his power armor servos whining with effort. The Enclave doesn't negotiate. They'll either capture your ship or destroy it to keep it from falling into mutant hands. And Commander, they have Hellfire missiles, powerful enough to crack bunkers. Their missiles won't get through our kinetic barriers, Miranda said confidently, though her breathing was labored from the sprint. If the barriers are still operational, Garrus countered grimly. EDI said multiple systems were offline. We might be more vulnerable than we think. They crested a rubble pile and saw the battlefield unfold. The vertibirds had taken position in a triangular formation, their door gunners opening fire with heavy machine guns that stitched the ground around the Normandy with bullets. But Grunt had rallied the crew. Shepard could see muzzle flashes from the airlock positions as the team returned fire. One vertibird suddenly lurched violently, its tail rotor sparking as mass accelerator rounds tore through the relatively thin armor. The pilot struggled for control, the aircraft spinning in a wild arc before crash landing in a fireball 200 meters from the ship. One down! Jack's voice crackled over the comm, pure savage joy. Who's next? But the Enclave was adapting quickly. The remaining 2 vertibirds gained altitude, putting distance between themselves and the devastating accuracy of the Normandy's weapons. Through his rifle scope, Shepard could see soldiers in advanced power armor, sleeker and more sophisticated than the Brotherhood's, rappelling from the aircraft. Ground troops deploying, Garrus observed, his sniper rifle already tracking targets. Count 8, no, 12 hostiles. Power armor, energy weapons, professional spacing. These aren't raiders, Shepard. These are soldiers. Elder Lyons cursed. Enclave shock troops. Each one is worth 10 raiders in a fight. "Commander, if they breach your ship—" "They won't," Shepard cut him off. "Brotherhood forces take defensive positions around the perimeter. My people will handle the breach points. Coordinated fire on my mark." The Elder barked orders into his radio, and the Brotherhood paladins moved with practiced efficiency, their laser rifles creating overlapping fields of fire. It was a strange alliance. The Normandy's crew, with their sleek, advanced technology, working alongside wastelanders in salvaged power armor. But desperation made for unlikely partnerships. Shepard slid into cover behind a rusted vehicle, Miranda and Garrus flanking. An Enclave soldier emerged from the dust cloud, their plasma rifle glowing with lethal green energy. The weapon fired with a distinctive whine, and the bolt of superheated matter vaporized the vehicle's hood. "Plasma weapons," Miranda noted, her Omni tool analyzing the energy signature. "Crude by our standards, but the temperature is impressive. Direct hit would overload kinetic barriers." "Then don't get hit," Shepard replied, leaning out to fire. The assault rifle's mass accelerator rounds moved at hypersonic velocity, but the Enclave soldier's power armor absorbed the first burst. The figure staggered but didn't fall. "Tougher than they look," Garrus muttered, adjusting his aim. His mantis boomed, and this time the Enclave soldier went down, the high-powered round punching through the armor's weakest point at the neck seal. The battle descended into a desperate close-quarters fight. Brotherhood paladins traded laser fire with Enclave troops, the beams scorching armor and flesh alike. The Normandy's crew used superior tactics and mobility, but they were outnumbered and fighting on unfamiliar ground. Zaid took position on a collapsed wall, his rifle barking steadily. These Enclave bastards know their business. Professional movements, good fire discipline. Someone trained them proper. An explosion rocked the battlefield as one of the remaining vertibirds launched a missile. The projectile streaked toward the Normandy's exposed engine core, and for a heartbeat, Shepard thought they were finished. Then Jack appeared in the airlock, her entire body wreathed in dark energy. She thrust both hands forward and screamed, the biotic shockwave intercepting the missile mid-flight. The explosion bloomed harmlessly in the air, the force dispersed across her barrier. "Stay away from my ship." Jack's voice was raw with fury and power. The display of impossible force gave the Enclave soldiers pause. Shepard could see them hesitating, their training warring with disbelief. In this wasteland, energy weapons and power armor were impressive, but biotics, pure telekinetic manipulation of mass effect fields, that was magic. "Suppress them while they're confused," Shepard ordered. The combined fire from Brotherhood and Normandy forces drove the Enclave troops into cover, but Shepard knew they were only buying time. The soldiers were regrouping, adapting, preparing for another push. And overhead, the remaining vertibird was circling for another attack run. Then EDI's voice cut through the chaos. "Shepard, I am detecting additional contacts, multiple signatures approaching from the northeast. Identification uncertain. They are moving at superhuman speed." "Super mutants?" Shepard asked. "Negative. These biosigns are different, smaller, and their approach pattern suggests tactical coordination." Through the dust and smoke, new figures emerged. They wore armor that looked like it had been assembled from a dozen different sources. Chinese stealth suits, modified with Brotherhood plating, pre-war combat armor reinforced with scavenged materials. Their weapons were equally eclectic, a mix of laser rifles, plasma weapons, and conventional firearms that had been maintained with obsessive care. The leader stepped forward, and Shepard's tactical display identified them as female despite the concealing armor. Her voice, when it came through a helmet speaker, was young but carried absolute authority. Enclave forces, this is Sentinel Sarah Lyons of the Brotherhood's Lions Pride. You are in violation of Capital Wasteland territorial agreements. Withdraw immediately or be engaged. Elder Lyons appeared at Shepard's side, and there was something in his expression. Pride mixed with concern. "My daughter," he said simply. "Best soldier in the Brotherhood." The Enclave commander's response came over an open channel, distorted by his armor's vocoder. "The Brotherhood has no authority here, Sentinel. This vessel is pre-war technology, which makes it Enclave property by right of continuity of government." "There is no government," Sarah Lyons shot back. "Just survivors and those who prey on them. Last warning, withdraw." The Enclave commander's answer was to order his troops forward. What happened next was a masterclass in wasteland warfare. Lyons' Pride moved like a single organism, suppressing fire, flanking maneuvers, and concentrated strikes on weak points. They fought with a desperation and skill born from years of survival against overwhelming odds. Combined with the Normandy crew's superior technology and the Elders' paladins providing fire support, the Enclave forces found themselves in a collapsing tactical position. The remaining vertibird launched its payload, a full spread of missiles that streaked toward the Normandy, but Grunt had managed to jury-rig one of the Guardian laser emplacements. The point defense system came online with a satisfying hum, and precise laser pulses intercepted 3 of the 4 missiles. The 4th got through, impacting the Normandy's kinetic barriers with an explosion that lit up the wasteland. The barriers held barely. "Barrier strength at 23%, EDI reported. One more sustained attack will breach the hull." But the Enclave commander had seen enough. The remaining vertibird began to retreat, laying down covering fire as the ground troops withdrew in disciplined order. They left their dead but carried their wounded, professionals to the end. Shepard watched them go, knowing this was only the beginning. The Enclave had seen the Normandy's capabilities. They'd return with more forces, better plans, and deadlier weapons. As the dust settled, Sarah Lyons removed her helmet. She was younger than Shepard expected, mid-20s perhaps, with short, dark hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. She looked at the Normandy, then at her father, then at Shepard. "So," she said with dark humor, "this is the impossible ship everyone's talking about. I have to admit, I was skeptical when the scouts reported a vessel from the stars, but you actually shot down a vertibird with some kind of laser that moves faster than I can track." "Guardian Point Defense System," Garrus supplied helpfully, "designed for intercepting mass accelerator rounds in ship-to-ship combat. Missiles are actually easier targets." Sarah blinked. "Ship-to-ship combat? In space? Of course." She turned to her father. "Dad, I think we need to have a very long conversation about what exactly we've gotten ourselves into." Elder Lyons nodded grimly. "Agreed. But first, we need to secure this area. The Enclave knows where you are now, Commander Shepard, and they won't stop until they possess your technology or destroy it." Shepard surveyed the battlefield, the burning vertibird, the scattered bodies, the damaged but defiant Normandy. They'd won this round, but at what cost? Ammunition expended, barriers weakened, and their presence announced to every hostile faction in the wasteland. "EDI," Shepard said quietly. "Analysis, can we repair the Normandy with local resources?" A pause that felt like an eternity. "Uncertain, Shepard. The dimensional breach damaged systems that require materials not present in this universe's periodic table. Element 0, for instance, does not exist here. ESO-based systems, including the Mass Effect core, biotic amps, and FTL drive, cannot be repaired or refueled. The implications crashed over Shepard like cold water. No Element 0 meant no biotics once their amps burned out. No Mass Effect fields meant no FTL drive. No way home. They were stranded. Truly, permanently stranded. And the Wasteland, having tasted what they could do, would never leave them alone. The Normandy's conference room had never felt smaller. Shepard sat at the head of the table, surrounded by faces that ranged from grim to barely controlled panic. The sleek holographic displays and advanced technology that lined the walls seemed almost mocking now, remnants of a civilization they could never return to. Elder Lyons and Sarah stood near the entrance, their power armor removed, looking distinctly uncomfortable in the ship's sterile interior. The Brotherhood had never seen anything like this. Smooth surfaces, automated systems, lighting that didn't flicker or fail. To them, it must have seemed like stepping into pre-war paradise. "Let me make sure I understand," Miranda said, her voice tight with controlled frustration. EDI's analysis confirms that Element 0, the fundamental basis for our technology, does not exist in this universe. Not depleted, not rare, completely absent from the atomic structure of reality itself. Correct, EDI's voice emanated from the room's speakers. This universe's physical laws are similar but not identical to our own. The exotic matter required for Mass Effect fields cannot form naturally here. Furthermore, the dimensional breach that brought us here has destabilized. I detect no resonance, no quantum signature that would allow us to recreate the crossing. We are, by all measurable parameters, permanently displaced. Silence crashed through the room like a physical force. Joker's voice crackled over the intercom, uncharacteristically quiet. "So, we're not going home. Ever. That's what you're saying." "Not with our current technology and resources," EDI confirmed. "I am sorry, Jeff." Garrus's mandibles twitched, a sign of deep stress. "Our kinetic barriers will fail within weeks. Biotic amps will burn out without ESO recharge. The Mass Effect core is already running on residual charge. Once it's depleted, the Normandy becomes a very expensive coffin." "What about conventional repairs?" Shepard asked, forcing their voice to remain steady. Leadership meant staying calm when everything was falling apart. "The hull breaches, damaged systems, life support?" "Possible," EDI answered. "This world possesses functional metallurgy, basic electronics, and energy generation. The Brotherhood's technical capabilities are approximately equivalent to late 20th century Earth, with some advancements in energy weapons and nuclear technology. With their assistance and resources, we can repair structural damage and maintain essential systems. But we will never fly again, not in space." Elder Lyons cleared his throat. "Commander, I won't pretend to understand half of what your AI just said, but I understand being stranded. Every Brotherhood expedition into the Wasteland starts with the knowledge that you might not make it home. The question isn't what you've lost, it's what you do next." Sarah leaned against the wall, studying the crew. "You're warriors. I saw how you fought. You're organized, disciplined, and you have weapons that make our best gear look like toys. The Capital Wasteland is a meat grinder, factions fighting over scraps, super mutants hunting humans, and the Enclave trying to exterminate anyone they consider impure. You want to survive? You need to choose a side. Or make our own, Jack muttered darkly. We've got enough firepower to carve out territory. Make these wasteland assholes respect us. And then what? Miranda countered. We're 23 people, Jack. No reinforcements, no resupply. Every fight we take depletes ammunition we can't replace. Every injury uses Medigel we can't manufacture. We need to think long-term. Grunt slammed a massive fist on the table, making even the sturdy surface shudder. Thinking is for prey. We are predators. We fight. We conquer. We survive. Grunt's right about one thing, Zaid added, his scarred face thoughtful. This wasteland respects strength. We just beat back raiders, super mutants, and the Enclave in one day. Words already spreading. Every faction from here to the pit is going to want to either recruit us or eliminate us. Shepard stood, and the room fell silent. This was the moment, the decision that would define their survival, or doom them to become another wasteland tragedy. We're not conquerors, Shepard said firmly, and we're not raiders. We're Alliance military, Cerberus operatives, mercenaries, and specialists. But more than that, we're survivors. We've fought collectors, reapers, and every hostile species in the galaxy. This wasteland is harsh, but we've faced worse. Shepard turned to Elder Lyons. You offered an alliance. I'm ready to make it official, but with terms. The Brotherhood gets access to some of our medical technology. Nothing that requires EZO, but we have water purification designs, radiation treatment protocols, and combat medicine that could save thousands of lives. In exchange, you provide us with resources, intelligence, and protection while we establish ourselves. And what exactly are you establishing? Sarah asked, her tone skeptical. A settlement, a fortress, another faction fighting for scraps. A chance, Shepard replied. This world destroyed itself with nuclear weapons. Our world was headed toward the same fate until we learned to cooperate. Maybe we can teach that here. Elder Lyons stroked his beard thoughtfully. Noble words, Commander, but the wasteland doesn't reward nobility. It rewards strength and pragmatism. Still, he glanced at his daughter. We've been fighting to save this region for years. Your technology could turn the tide. Water purification alone would change everything. People are dying from radiation sickness, from contaminated water, from diseases we can't treat. If you can help with that, we can, Shepard confirmed. EDI, pull up the designs for portable water purification units. Nothing that requires advanced manufacturing. We'll need to work within the Brotherhood's capabilities. Holographic schematics materialized above the table, rotating slowly. Even simplified, the design was far beyond anything the wasteland had seen. Elder Lyons leaned forward, his eyes widening with recognition and wonder. If this works, if we can build these, do you understand what this means? Clean water for settlements, for farms, for people who've been drinking irradiated sludge their entire lives. It's a start, Shepard said, but we need something in return beyond resources. We need intelligence. Every faction, every major player, every threat in this region. We need to understand the playing field. Sarah nodded slowly. That we can do. The Capital Wasteland is divided into rough territories. The Brotherhood controls the area around the Citadel. Old Pentagon ruins, fortified and defensible. We're the largest organized military force, but we're stretched thin fighting super mutants and the Enclave. She activated her Pip-Boy, a crude wrist-mounted computer that made Shepard's Omni-tool look like magic, and projected a rough map onto the table. The Capital Wasteland spread before them, marked with territories and danger zones. Here, Sarah pointed to a cluster of settlements. Megaton, Rivet City, Canterbury Commons. These are the major civilian settlements. They're fragile, constant threat from raiders, mutants, and the environment itself. They trade with each other, but there's no unified government, just survival. The Enclave, Elder Lyons took over, pointing to another area. They have a mobile base, a mobile crawler they call Adams Air Force Base, advanced technology, ideological zealots, and a belief that only pure humans deserve to survive. They'll hunt you until they capture your ship or destroy it. Super mutants, Sarah continued, marking several locations, concentrated around Vault 87. They're creating more of themselves somehow, kidnapping humans and mutating them. They're not mindless beasts. Some are intelligent, organized, but most see humans as either slaves or food. Garrus studied the map with a tactical eye. What about neutral parties? Groups that might trade rather than fight? Traders exist, Elder Lyons confirmed. Caravans move between settlements. There's a group called the Regulators, bounty hunters who kill raiders for caps. And then there are the outcasts. Outcasts? Shepard asked. Sarah's expression hardened. Brotherhood soldiers who disagreed with my father's decision to help wastelanders instead of just hoarding technology. They split off, formed their own faction. They're still Brotherhood in training and equipment, but they're isolationists. Technology above all else. They'd kill for your ship, Dad, no question. The complexity was staggering. This wasn't a simple war between good and evil. It was dozens of factions with conflicting interests, all fighting over the corpse of a dead civilization. There's one more player, Elder Lyons said quietly. Someone we haven't mentioned because most people think he's a myth. A man who controls New Vegas, a city out west that somehow survived the war, mostly intact. His name is Mr. House, and if the stories are true, he's a pre-war human kept alive by technology we don't understand. He doesn't operate in the Capital Wasteland, but he has agents everywhere. If word reaches him about your ship, another problem for another day, Shepard decided. Right now, our priorities are clear. Secure the Normandy, establish supply lines, and prove to the Wasteland that we're valuable alive. EDI, work with the Brotherhood scribes on those water purification designs. Miranda, inventory our remaining supplies and figure out what we can spare. Garrus, I want defensive positions established around the ship. Kill zones, fallback positions, the works. What about the crew? Joker asked over the comm. Half of us are looking at those radiation readings and realizing we're living in a poison cloud. Radiation medications, Shepard said. We have Rad-X and Radaway in our stores from hazardous environment missions. We'll need to ration them carefully and see if the Brotherhood has local alternatives. Long term, we'll need to adapt or find less contaminated areas. Elder Lyons stood, offering his hand again. You have the Brotherhood support, Commander. But know this, the moment I think your technology threatens the Wasteland's survival, this alliance ends. We've seen what happens when people get their hands on weapons they can't control. Shepard took the hand. Understood. And Elder, the moment I think you're planning to seize the Normandy, I'll turn this ship into a crater, rather than let it fall into anyone's hands. The Elder smiled grimly. Understood. I think we'll get along fine. As the Brotherhood leaders departed to begin coordinating their forces, Shepard stood alone in the conference room, staring at the map of the Capital Wasteland. 23 crew members against an entire hostile world. No way home, no reinforcements coming. But they had something the wasteland didn't: hope, technology that could change lives, training that could turn the tide, and the experience of fighting impossible odds and surviving. The Normandy would fly again, perhaps not to the stars, but across this broken world. They would adapt, survive, and maybe, just maybe, make this wasteland a little less hostile. Outside, the Capital Wasteland stretched endlessly under a poisoned sky. Somewhere in the ruins, the Enclave was regrouping. Super mutants were hunting, raiders were scavenging, and every faction was watching, waiting to see what the strangers from the stars would do next. Shepard's crew had one advantage. They'd already survived one apocalypse. This one would be no different. 3 days after the crash, the Normandy had become a fortress. Garrus had transformed the crash site into a defensive masterpiece. Wreckage from the collapsed suburb formed natural barriers, augmented with salvaged materials the Brotherhood had hauled in: concrete slabs, steel beams, and rusted vehicles arranged to create overlapping fields of fire. Motion sensors scavenged from the ship's damaged sections had been repurposed as perimeter alarms. Anyone approaching would trigger alerts long before they reached weapons range. But defense was only half the battle. Survival meant resources, and resources in the wasteland meant trade. Shepard stood in what had once been a pre-war shopping center, now converted into a makeshift marketplace. Megaton's merchant quarter, such as it was. The town itself was a monument to wasteland ingenuity, an entire settlement built inside and around the crater of an undetonated atomic bomb, with scrap metal walls and jury-rigged defenses that somehow held back the horrors outside. "This is insane," Miranda muttered beside Shepard, eyeing the massive bomb in the town's center. They built a city around a live nuclear weapon. The structural instability alone. "They didn't have a choice," Shepard interrupted, watching wastelanders go about their daily routines with practiced efficiency. "Out here, you take shelter where you find it, even if it's next to a bomb." The marketplace buzzed with activity. Traders hawked everything from Brahmin meat, two-headed mutated cattle that served as the wasteland's primary livestock, to scavenged pre-war technology that mostly didn't work. The currency was bottle caps, which had apparently become standard after the dollar's collapse. The absurdity of it would have been comical if everyone wasn't so deadly serious. Moira Brown, Megaton's merchant and self-proclaimed scientist, was examining a portable water purifier that EDI had designed. The device was crude by Alliance standards. No ESO components, just mechanical filtration and UV sterilization powered by a small fusion cell. But to the wasteland, it was revolutionary. "This is amazing!" Moira exclaimed, her enthusiasm genuine despite her radiation-scarred skin and wild hair. "Do you know what this means? Clean water without having to boil it for hours or risk rad poisoning. I could manufacture these, sell them to settlements. We could—" She paused, her sharp mind catching up. "Wait. What do you want for the design?" "Information," Shepard said simply. "And supplies. We need food that isn't irradiated, medical supplies, and ammunition that works with our weapons, if such a thing exists here." Moira's expression turned calculating. "You're the ones from the crashed ship, the Brotherhood's new best friends. Words spreading fast, strangers with magic weapons and force fields. Half the wasteland thinks you're aliens. The other half thinks you're some Enclave superweapon gone rogue." "Neither," Shepard replied. "We're travelers who had a very bad accident. Now we're trying to survive like everyone else." "Survive," Moira repeated, tapping her Pip-Boy. See, that's interesting, because you don't just have advanced tech, you have clean tech. Nothing leaking radiation, no toxic byproducts, no jury-rigged power systems that explode randomly. That makes you valuable, very valuable. And in the wasteland, valuable things get stolen or destroyed. It wasn't a threat, just a statement of fact. Shepard appreciated the honesty. Then we make ourselves valuable enough that people want us alive, Shepard countered. These water purifiers are just the start. We have medical knowledge, tactical training, and technology that could change this region. But we need partners, not enemies. Moira grinned, showing teeth stained from years of contaminated water. I like you. You think like a wastelander, always planning 3 moves ahead. All right, here's what I can do. Food, medicine, and some ammunition, though your weapons don't use anything standard. In exchange, I get exclusive manufacturing rights for these purifiers in megaton. Fair? Fair, Shepard agreed. But I need something else. Information about the Enclave, their capabilities, their leadership, their plans. The merchant's expression darkened. The Enclave doesn't advertise their plans, but I hear things. They've been more active lately, sending patrols into areas they usually avoid, looking for something or someone. Her eyes met Shepard's meaningfully. Word is they're obsessed with your ship. Colonel Autumn, their field commander, he's apparently convinced that whoever controls your technology controls the wasteland's future. He's not wrong, Miranda observed quietly. A commotion near the marketplace entrance drew their attention. Brotherhood paladins were escorting a group of wastelanders, dirty, exhausted, and clearly traumatized. Sarah Lyons was with them, her armor dented and scorched from recent combat. Shepard approached quickly. Sentinel Lyons, what happened? Sarah's face was grim. Super mutant raid on a settlement called Arafu. We got there in time to save some survivors, but the place is gone. The mutants are getting bolder, pushing closer to Megaton and the Brotherhood's territory. It's like they're testing our defenses, probing for weaknesses. One of the survivors, a young woman clutching a plasma rifle like a lifeline, stared at Shepard with wide eyes. You're one of the star people, the ones who fell from the sky. We prefer dimensional travelers, Shepard said gently. But yes, what's your name? Lucy, We heard stories about you, that you fought off raiders and the Enclave at the same time, that you have weapons that shoot lightning and shields that stop bullets. Her voice cracked. Can you stop the super mutants? Can you help us? The weight of hope in her voice was crushing. Shepard had led missions to save entire civilizations, had fought against extinction-level threats. But this felt different, more personal, more desperate. These people had nothing left except the slim chance that strangers from another universe might care enough to fight for them. We're going to try, Shepard promised, but I need to understand what we're facing. The super mutants. How organized are they? Do they have leadership? Sarah answered. Most are mindless brutes, but some retain intelligence. We think there's a hierarchy, but we've never confirmed it. What we know is they're capturing humans and dragging them to Vault 87. Those who go in don't come out human. Forced mutation, Miranda said, her scientific mind already analyzing. They're converting humans into more super mutants, a self-sustaining army that grows with every raid. Exactly, Sarah confirmed, and it's getting worse. The attacks are more frequent, more coordinated. If we don't do something soon, they'll overrun the entire region. Garrus had been silent, studying the tactical situation. Now he spoke, his voice thoughtful. We've fought similar threats, the Rachni, the Collectors, self-replicating enemy forces that grow stronger with each victory. The key is finding the source and eliminating it. This Vault 87, that's where we need to strike. Suicide, Sarah said flatly. Vault 87 is deep in the ruins, surrounded by radiation so intense it'll kill an unprotected human in seconds. Even with power armor, the Brotherhood can't get close, and inside, it's a maze filled with dozens, maybe hundreds, of super mutants. Then we adapt, Shepard decided. We have radiation suits designed for hazardous environments. Our weapons are more effective than anything the Wasteland has. And we have something else. Experience fighting impossible odds. You're serious? Sarah said, studying Shepard's face. You actually want to assault Vault 87. Not want, Shepard corrected. Need. If the super mutants keep growing, eventually they'll overwhelm everyone. Better to hit them at their source before they become unstoppable. But we'll need support. Brotherhood soldiers, intelligence on the Vault's layout, and a clear extraction plan. Elder Lyon's voice crackled over Sarah's radio. Sentinel, return to the Citadel immediately. We have a situation. Sarah's expression tightened. On my way. Commander, you should come too. If my father's calling an emergency meeting, it's serious. They left Megaton in a Brotherhood transport, a pre-war military truck that ran on fusion power and belched smoke like a dying animal. The wasteland rolled past outside, a landscape of ruin and despair punctuated by the occasional settlement clinging to survival. The Citadel loomed ahead, a fortress built inside the ruins of the Pentagon, massive walls of reinforced concrete and steel, bristling with defensive positions and patrolled by paladins in power armor. It was the Brotherhood's heart, their stronghold against the wasteland's endless threats. Inside, the command center was organized chaos. Scribes operated ancient computer terminals, radio operators coordinated patrols, and tactical displays showed the region's current threats. Elder Lyon stood at the center, studying a holographic projection that looked suspiciously advanced for wasteland technology. Commander Shepard, he greeted them. We intercepted an Enclave transmission. They're planning a major offensive, not against us, but against your ship. Colonel Autumn has assembled a strike force, 3 vertibirds, 2 squads of Hellfire troopers, and something they're calling Project Armageddon. We don't know what it is, but the radio chatter suggests it's a weapon specifically designed to breach your defenses. Shepard's mind raced. 3 days. They'd had 3 days of relative peace, and now the Enclave was coming with everything they had. When? Shepard asked. Tomorrow at dawn, Elder Lyons replied. They're staging out of their mobile base. We could hit them during preparation, but that would require committing most of our forces. Forces we need to defend the Citadel and civilian settlements. We don't have the strength to fight a 2-front war, Sarah added. If we leave the Citadel exposed, the super mutants will attack. We've seen them massing near our perimeter for days. It was a classic pincer strategy, whether intentional or not. The Enclave attacking the Normandy while super mutants threatened the Brotherhood. Divide and conquer. Then we need to be smart, Shepard said. We can't defend everything, so we don't try. We pick our battles, use our advantages, and make them pay for every inch. What advantages? Sarah asked skeptically. We're outnumbered, outgunned by local standards, and fighting on terrain that's hostile to everyone. Shepard smiled, a predator's expression that Garrus recognized immediately. We have one advantage they don't. We've fought this kind of war before. Asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics. turning enemy strength into weakness. The Enclave wants the Normandy. We'll give them a fight they'll never forget. Miranda was already working her Omni tool, calculating variables. We'll need to fortify the crash site, establish kill zones, and prepare fallback positions. If we're smart, we can use the Normandy itself as bait, draw them in, and hit them from unexpected angles. What about the super mutants? Elder Lyons asked. If they attack while we're engaged with the Enclave, then we finish the Enclave quickly and move to support you, Shepard interrupted. But Elder, I need you to trust us. My crew has fought battles across the galaxy. We've survived the unsurvivable. Give us the intelligence we need, the support you can spare, and we'll show the Wasteland what happens when you threaten the Normandy. The Elder studied Shepard for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You remind me of myself 30 years ago. Too stubborn to know when you're beaten, too skilled to fail even when you should. All right, Commander. The Brotherhood will provide support, supplies, intelligence, and a rapid response team if things go wrong. But understand, if this goes badly, we can't save you. The Wasteland doesn't offer second chances. We won't need them, Shepard said with absolute confidence. As they left the Citadel to prepare for the coming battle, Garrus fell into step beside Shepard. You know, he said conversationally, I've followed you through impossible fights, Shepard, but this might be the first time we're actually outnumbered, outsupplied, and fighting with one hand tied behind our backs. So, a normal Tuesday? Shepard replied with a grim smile. Exactly what I was thinking. The sun was setting over the Capital Wasteland, painting the ruins in shades of orange and red that looked disturbingly like blood. Tomorrow the Enclave would come with everything they had, and the Normandy's crew would be waiting, ready to prove that even stranded and desperate, they were still the most dangerous force this wasteland had ever seen. Dawn broke over the Capital Wasteland like a wound, the sky bleeding radiation-tinged orange across the horizon. Shepard stood atop the Normandy's damaged hull, watching the approaches through tactical binoculars. The crash site had been transformed overnight into a killing field, exactly as planned. Final check, Shepard said into the squad comm. All positions report. North perimeter secure, Garrus responded from his sniper nest inside a collapsed building. I've got clear sightlines for 400 meters. Any vertibird that comes within range is mine. South position ready, Miranda confirmed. Biotic barriers established, thermal charges placed on approach vectors. They'll have to come through a bottleneck if they want the ship. East side locked down, Grunt rumbled with satisfaction. Zaid and I have set up a crossfire that would make a Krogan jealous. Let them come. West perimeter set, Jack added, her voice carrying that manic edge that meant she was ready for violence. I've got enough biotic juice stored up to throw a vertibird back to wherever the hell it came from. EDI's voice cut through the chatter with clinical precision. Motion sensors detect incoming contacts. 3 aerial signatures matching vertibird profiles approaching from southwest at 120 kilometers per hour. Ground forces detected, estimated 2 squads, 24 soldiers total, advancing under forest cover. ETA, 4 minutes. Brotherhood forces? Shepard asked. Sentinel Lions team is positioned 2 kilometers north, EDI confirmed. They will respond to our signal but are maintaining distance to avoid early engagement. As requested. Shepard had insisted on that. This first engagement needed to send a message. The Normandy could defend itself. If the Brotherhood intervened too early, it would appear the crew needed protecting. Weakness invited aggression in the wasteland. "Here they come," Joker's voice crackled from inside the ship. "I've got visual on the vertibirds. And Commander, these guys brought the big guns. I'm reading missile pods, heavy machine guns, and something that looks like a plasma cannon mounted on the lead bird." Shepard dropped into cover as the vertibirds roared over the horizon. They came in fast and low, rotors churning the irradiated air into a maelstrom of dust and debris. The lead aircraft bore fresh paint, black and white in the Enclave's colors, and the insignia of a unit Shepard didn't recognize. A voice boomed from the lead vertibird's loudspeakers, electronically amplified and cold. "Attention occupants of the unidentified vessel. This is Colonel Augustus Autumn of the Enclave Armed Forces. You are in possession of technology that represents a threat to regional stability. Surrender the vessel and its systems immediately, and you will be treated as prisoners of war. Resist, and you will be classified as enemy combatants and eliminated." "Elimination it is," Shepard muttered, then switched to squad comm. "Hold fire until they commit. Let them think they have the advantage." The vertibirds circled, their door gunners scanning for targets. Enclave soldiers in advanced power armor repelled from the aircraft, hitting the ground with practiced efficiency. Their armor was sleeker than the Brotherhood's, jet black with red trim. Helmets featuring targeting systems that glowed menacingly. These weren't regular troops. These were Hellfire soldiers, the Enclave's elite. "Project Armageddon deploying," one of the Enclave soldiers reported, over an open channel that EDI had intercepted. From the lead vertibird, soldiers lowered a massive weapon on reinforced cables. The device was crude but unmistakably dangerous. A jury-rigged plasma cannon the size of a small vehicle, cobbled together from pre-war technology and powered by what looked like 3 fusion cores wired in series. The engineering was insane, unstable, and potentially devastating. "EDI analysis," Shepard ordered. "The weapon appears to be a modified plasma projector." The AI responded. "If fired at full capacity, it could generate temperatures exceeding 15,000 degrees Celsius, sufficient to melt through our compromised kinetic barriers and hull plating. Charging signature detected. They will be ready to fire in 90 seconds. "Not if they don't get the chance," Shepard said. "Garrus, take out that weapon's power supply. Everyone else on my mark. Let's show the Enclave what happens when they threaten our home." Garrus's Mantis boomed, the high-velocity round crossing the distance in a microsecond. One of the fusion cores exploded in a miniature sun, the blast throwing Enclave soldiers like rag dolls. The plasma cannon's barrel warped from the heat, the weapon now useless. "Mark!" Shepard shouted. The wasteland erupted into violence. Jack rose from her concealed position, dark energy swirling around her like a living storm. She thrust both hands forward and screamed, the biotic shockwave catching a squad of Hellfire troopers mid-advance. They were thrown backward with bone-crushing force, their advanced armor crumpling like foil against physics-defying power. Miranda's thermal charges detonated in sequence, turning the southern approach into an inferno. Hellfire troopers scattered, their formation breaking as flames engulfed their position. Through the smoke, Miranda emerged with her Locust SMG, firing controlled bursts that found weak points in armor joints with surgical precision. "West flank breached," one of the Enclave soldiers shouted. "We're taking fire from—" "What the hell is that?" Grunt had abandoned cover entirely, charging forward with his Claymore shotgun roaring. The Krogan was a living tank, his natural armor and regenerative biology making him nearly unstoppable at close range. He fired, cycled, fired again. each shot tearing through power armor like it was made of paper. An Enclave soldier tried to engage him with a plasma rifle at point-blank range. Grunt headbutted him so hard the helmet's faceplate shattered. "Victory or death!" Grunt bellowed, his battle cry echoing across the battlefield. The vertibirds reacted, their pilots trying to bring weapons to bear, but Garrus was already tracking them. His sniper rifle sang its deadly song, one shot, one kill. A pilot slumped in his seat, and the vertibird lurched violently, its rotor clipping a ruined building before it crashed in a screaming fireball. "Two left," Garrus reported calmly, adjusting for wind and radiation interference. The remaining vertibirds split up, trying to flank the Normandy from multiple angles. Their machine guns opened up, bullets sparking off the ship's damaged hull. Inside, Joker cursed as rounds punched through weakened sections, forcing him and the remaining crew to take cover. "Shepard, they're trying to suppress us," Joker called out. "I can't get the Guardian system online with them this close." "Jack, can you reach them?" Shepard asked while returning fire at advancing ground troops. "Watch me!" the biotic snarled. Jack planted her feet and drew deep on her reserves, dark energy coalescing into a visible sphere between her hands. For a moment she looked like a goddess of destruction, tattoos glowing with biotic power. Then she launched the warp field upward. The sphere of distorted space-time caught the nearest vertibird mid-turn. Metal shrieked as molecular bonds destabilized, the aircraft's structure literally tearing itself apart from the inside. The vertibird dropped like a stone, its crew ejecting seconds before impact. "Three down!" Jack shouted triumphantly. "Who's next?" But the Enclave wasn't finished. Colonel Autumn's voice cut through the chaos on all frequencies. "All units, Alpha Strike Protocol. Bring that ship down, no matter the cost." The remaining vertibird launched its entire missile payload, 6 Hellfire missiles streaking toward the Normandy's exposed engine core. Even damaged, a direct hit would be catastrophic, potentially detonating the remaining fuel and ammunition stores. "EDI, emergency power to barriers," Shepard commanded. "Barriers at 18% capacity," EDI responded. "Insufficient to stop all incoming projectiles." Time seemed to slow. Shepard's mind calculated trajectories, probabilities, outcomes. They weren't going to stop all the missiles. The Normandy was going to take a direct hit. People inside were going to die. Then the air itself seemed to tear apart. A biotic shockwave of unprecedented power exploded from the ship's interior, catching all 6 missiles simultaneously. The projectiles detonated harmlessly in midair, the combined explosion creating a mushroom cloud visible for kilometers. Through the smoke, a figure emerged onto the Normandy's hull. Samara, the Asari Justicar, floated 3 feet off the ground, biotic energy radiating from her in waves that distorted the air. She'd been in meditation since the crash, conserving her strength. Now she unleashed it. "You threaten the innocent," Samara said, her voice carrying with unnatural clarity. "You threaten my comrades. This cannot stand." She gestured, and the last vertibird simply stopped mid-flight. The entire aircraft hung suspended in a stasis field, rotors frozen, crew trapped in temporal amber. Samara's expression remained serene, even as sweat beaded on her blue skin from the effort. "Miranda, now!" Shepard shouted. The Cerberus operative fired a concentrated burst at the suspended vertibird's fuel tank. The explosion was spectacular, and with the aircraft frozen in place, all the force vented harmlessly away from the Normandy. When the smoke cleared, wreckage rained down across the wasteland. On the ground, the Enclave soldiers, had finally realized they were fighting a losing battle. Colonel Autumn's voice was strained but controlled. All units, tactical withdrawal. This engagement is a loss. Fall back to Rally Point Delta. Like hell, Zaid growled, tracking a retreating soldier through his scope. They started this party, Commander. We gonna let them leave? Shepard hesitated, watching the Enclave forces retreat in disciplined order, dragging their wounded with them. Every instinct screamed to pursue, to eliminate the threat completely, but that wasn't who they were. And more importantly, it wasn't smart. Let them go, Shepard ordered. They came to test us. We passed. Now they'll report back that attacking the Normandy costs more than it's worth. The battlefield fell silent except for the crackling of flames and the groans of wounded. Shepard surveyed the damage. 3 vertibirds destroyed, at least a dozen Enclave soldiers dead, and the Normandy still standing, battered but defiant. Casualty report, Shepard said into the comm. Minor injuries only, Miranda responded, already moving through the crash site with Medigel. Burns, concussions, nothing critical. The Normandy took additional damage, hull breaches in sections C and D, but EDI reports no critical system failures. We did it, Joker said, his voice filled with disbelief. We actually beat them. With a quarter of our crew and a broken ship, we beat the Enclave. We sent a message, Shepard corrected, watching smoke rise from the battlefield. But Elder Lyons was right. The Wasteland doesn't give second chances. They'll be back, and next time, they'll bring more. Then we'll be ready, Garrus said, descending from his sniper position. It's what we do, Shepard. We survive. A Brotherhood transport rumbled up to the perimeter. Sarah Lyons emerged, her expression a mixture of respect and concern. She surveyed the battlefield, the destroyed vertibirds, the scorched earth, the evidence of power the Wasteland had never seen. My scouts counted the explosion from 6 kilometers away, she said quietly. The entire region saw it, saw you win. Commander, you wanted to prove you could defend yourselves? Congratulations. Every faction from here to the Potomac now knows the strangers from the stars can't be pushed around. But, Shepard prompted, hearing the unspoken concern, but now you're a target, not just for the Enclave, for everyone. Raiders will want your weapons. The Brotherhood outcasts will want your technology. The super mutants will want to test themselves against you. You just painted the biggest target in the Wasteland on your backs. Shepard looked at the Normandy, damaged, grounded but still standing, still home. Then we deal with each threat as it comes. We've done it before. We'll do it again. In the distance, thunder rumbled. Not a storm, something else. EDI's voice cut through the moment of victory with cold urgency. Shepard, long-range sensors detect massive biosigns approaching from the northeast. Count exceeds 100 individual contacts. Size, density, and movement patterns consistent with super mutant classification. They are converging on the Brotherhood's citadel. Sarah's face went pale. No, they wouldn't. Not in broad daylight. Not with our full garrison. They would if they thought you were weakened, Shepard interrupted, understanding dawning with horrifying clarity. The Enclave attack was cover. The super mutants waited until your forces were divided, watching the battle here. Now they're hitting the citadel while your best troops are away. Sarah was already running for the transport, shouting orders into her radio. All units, emergency recall. The citadel is under attack. Shepard looked at the crew, exhausted, wounded, running on fumes and determination. They'd just won one battle. Now another was beginning, and this time the Brotherhood needed them. "Mount up," Shepard commanded. "We're not done yet." The wasteland had tested them. Now it was their turn to prove they were more than survivors. They were warriors, and warriors fought. The Brotherhood transport screamed across the wasteland, its fusion engine pushed beyond safe limits. Shepard gripped the overhead rail as the vehicle bounced over rubble and craters, the citadel growing larger on the horizon. Even from this distance, the sounds of battle were unmistakable. The roar of laser fire, the deeper boom of explosions, and underneath it all, the collective howl of supermutants in full assault. "Status update," Shepard shouted over the engine noise. Sarah Lyons was coordinating on 3 radio channels simultaneously, her face grim. "The Citadel's outer defenses are holding, but barely. They hit us with over 100 supermutants, more than we've ever seen in a single attack. They're using siege tactics, Commander. Coordinated flanking, suppressing fire, even primitive siege weapons. This isn't random aggression. This is organized warfare." "Someone's leading them," Garrus observed, checking his rifle's thermal clip. "Supermutants don't develop tactical doctrine overnight. There's intelligence behind this attack." Miranda was running calculations on her Omni tool, her expression darkening. "If they breach the Citadel's walls, the Brotherhood loses their command center, their armory, and their medical facilities, everything they need to maintain control of this region. And every civilian settlement loses their only real protection," Sarah added bitterly. "The Citadel falls, the Capital Wasteland falls. It's that simple." The transport crested a rise, and the full scope of the battle revealed itself. The Citadel, the Pentagon's ruins transformed into a fortress, was surrounded by a sea of green-skinned giants. Supermutants swarmed the walls like ants, some wielding crude siege ladders while others provided covering fire with miniguns and missile launchers. Brotherhood paladins fought from the ramparts, their laser rifles cutting down attackers, but for every mutant that fell, 2 more seemed to take its place. A section of the outer wall exploded, chunks of reinforced concrete flying through the air. Through the breach poured supermutants wielding sledgehammers and super sledges, massive weapons that could crush power armor with a single blow. "They're breaching Sector 7, a panicked voice crackled over Sarah's radio. "We need reinforcements now." "Hold that sector," Sarah commanded. "We're 2 minutes out." The transport skidded to a halt at the Citadel's main gate, and Shepard's squad poured out with weapons ready. The scene was chaos incarnate. Brotherhood soldiers in power armor fought desperately to hold choke points, while scribes, non-combat personnel, had been forced to take up arms. The injured were being dragged to makeshift triage areas, and the smell of burned flesh and ozone hung thick in the air. Elder Lyons stood in the courtyard, his armor scorched and dented, directing the defense with the calm of a veteran who'd seen worse. When he spotted Shepard, relief flashed across his weathered face. "Commander, your timing is impeccable. We need your people at Sector 7. That breach is widening, and if they get into the inner compound—" "We're on it," Shepard interrupted. "Garrus, take the high ground. I want covering fire on that breach. Miranda, organize a counterpush. We need to drive them back before they establish a foothold. Grunt, you're with me. We're plugging that hole." "Finally!" Grunt bellowed, chambering around in his claymore. "Real combat!" They charged through the Citadel's corridors, Brotherhood soldiers falling in behind them. The fortress was a maze of pre-war concrete and jury-rigged defenses, but Sarah knew every inch. She led them to Sector 7 at a dead run. The breach was worse than Shepard had imagined. A gap 10 meters wide had been blasted through the wall, and super mutants were pouring through. Massive, rage-filled creatures that stood 8 feet tall and wielded weapons that looked like they'd been ripped from vehicles. One of them carried a minigun that must have weighed 200 pounds, firing it one-handed while charging forward. "Human meat!" the creature roared. "Kill, maim, eat!" Brotherhood paladins were fighting hand-to-hand now, their laser rifles spent. A paladin went down under a super mutant's sledgehammer, armor crumpling like foil. Another was picked up bodily and thrown through a wall. "Contact!" Shepard shouted, bringing their assault rifle to bear. The Normandy crew hit the super mutants like a kinetic round. Shepard's rifle barked in precise bursts, targeting weak points, joints, eyes, exposed flesh. Mass accelerator rounds punched through muscle and bone with devastating effect. A super mutant's head snapped back, brain matter spraying, and the giant toppled like a felled tree. Grunt charged directly into the breach with a war cry that echoed off the walls. He fired his claymore point blank into a super mutant's torso, the blast literally tearing the creature in half. Then he reversed the weapon and used it as a club, smashing aside another attacker with Krogan's strength that matched the mutant's raw power. "Is this your best?" Grunt roared, laughing with pure combat joy. "I've fought Thresher Maws tougher than you." Miranda coordinated the Brotherhood's counterattack with tactical precision. "Paladins, form a firing line behind me. On my mark, concentrated fire on the breach." She raised her hand, biotic energy crackling. "Mark!" A dozen laser rifles fired simultaneously, creating a wall of coherent light. Super mutants screamed as their flesh burned, but they kept coming. Miranda released her biotic energy in a shockwave that sent the front rank sprawling, giving the Brotherhood precious seconds to reload. From his elevated position, Garrus was a ghost of death. His mantis sang its deadly song, one shot, one super mutant down. He prioritized the heavy weapons specialists, the ones carrying missile launchers and miniguns that could chew through defensive positions. Each kill was surgical, professional, and utterly merciless. 12 down, Garrus reported calmly over the comm, adjusting for target density and movement patterns. But the super mutants weren't mindless beasts. They adapted quickly, using their fallen comrades as cover and coordinating suppressing fire to pin down defenders. And then the ground began to shake. Through the breach stepped something that made even Grunt pause. It stood 12 feet tall, muscles like cables wrapped around a frame that seemed too massive to move. But move it did, with terrifying speed and purpose. Its skin was darker than the others, almost gray, and its eyes showed intelligence, cold, calculating, and utterly hostile. "Behemoth," Sarah whispered, her voice tight with fear. "Shepard, those things are rare and unstoppable. We've never killed one without air support or artillery." The behemoth carried a fire hydrant as a club, the massive piece of pre-war infrastructure wielded like a toy. It swung experimentally, and the shock wave from the displaced air was enough to knock nearby soldiers off their feet. "Fortress falls," the behemoth spoke, its voice like grinding stone. "Humans die. Mutants rule." It could speak complex sentences, leadership. "That's their commander," Shepard realized. "Take it down and the rest might break." "Might" being the operative word, Garrus muttered, already lining up a shot. His mantis boomed, the round striking the behemoth's skull with perfect accuracy. The creature's head snapped to the side, then slowly turned back. A trickle of blood running down its face. It was barely hurt. "Okay," Garrus said. "New plan. Shoot it a lot more." The behemoth charged, each footfall like a small earthquake. Brotherhood paladins scattered, unable to stand against something that massive. It swung its makeshift club, and the impact against the fortress wall left a crater in the concrete. "Concentrated fire," Shepard commanded. "Target the joints, the eyes, anything vulnerable." Every weapon opened up simultaneously. Assault rifles, laser weapons, plasma fire, all converging on the behemoth. The creature roared in pain and fury, but kept coming. Its thick hide absorbed damage that would have killed a dozen normal supermutants. Grunt stepped forward, meeting the charge head-on. The Krogan's battle cry was answered by the behemoth's roar, and the two titans collided with bone-crushing force. Grunt's head ridge cracked against the mutant's chest, and the Krogan fired his claymore directly into its abdomen. The blast opened a wound the size of a dinner plate, but the behemoth barely slowed. It brought down its club, and Grunt rolled aside, barely. The hydrant smashed into concrete where the Krogan had stood, leaving a crater. Grunt came up firing, but the behemoth backhanded him with its free hand. The blow sent Grunt flying 15 feet to crash against a wall. "Grunt!" Shepard shouted. The Krogan struggled to his feet, blood streaming from his nose, but his regeneration was already working. "Still alive?" he grunted. "Need bigger gun." "I have an idea," Miranda said suddenly. "But it's insane." "We're fighting a 12-foot monster with a fire hydrant," Shepard replied. "Insane is our baseline. What's your plan?" Miranda's Omni-tool flared to life. "Biotic singularity. If I can create a gravitational well strong enough, the behemoth's mass will work against it, compress it, crush it from the inside out. But I need time to build the charge, and I need it distracted." "You'll have it," Shepard promised, then switched to squad comm. "All units, keep that thing's attention on us. Miranda needs 30 seconds. Garrus's rifle became a metronome of death, each shot striking the behemoth's eyes, forcing it to focus on the sniper. Brotherhood paladins launched everything they had: laser fire, plasma grenades, even thrown explosives. The behemoth roared in frustration, swinging wildly. Shepard sprinted forward, just sliding between the creature's legs and firing upward into its unprotected underside. The rounds tore through muscle and organ, and the behemoth howled. It spun with frightening speed, trying to catch the nimble human, but Shepard was already moving. 20 seconds, Miranda shouted, dark energy coalescing around her in a visible sphere. The behemoth seemed to sense the threat. It turned toward Miranda, raising its club for a killing blow. But Grunt intercepted, tackling the giant's leg with all his Krogan might. The creature stumbled, giving Shepard time to empty an entire thermal clip into its back. 10 seconds. Sarah Lyons ran forward, her laser rifle set to overload. She fired at point-blank range into the behemoth's wounded abdomen, the beam burning deep into its core. The smell of charred flesh was overwhelming. "Now!" Miranda screamed and released the singularity. The biotic sphere shot forward and expanded, engulfing the behemoth in a gravitational well that twisted reality itself. The creature's roar became a scream as its own mass turned against it. Bones compressed, organs ruptured, and flesh tore. For a horrifying moment, the behemoth seemed to implode, its massive frame collapsing in on itself. Then the singularity collapsed, and what remained of the behemoth fell like a toppled monument. Silence crashed across the battlefield. The remaining supermutants stared at their fallen leader, confusion and fear replacing rage. Then, as one, they began to retreat, not in organized withdrawal, but in panicked flight. Without their commander, their coordination shattered. "Don't let them regroup," Elder Lyons commanded. "All units, pursue and eliminate." Brotherhood forces surged forward, chasing down the fleeing supermutants with renewed vigor. The siege was broken. Shepard stood in the breach, breathing hard, every muscle aching. Around them, the Citadel's defenders were picking themselves up, tending to wounded and staring at the Normandy crew with something approaching awe. A young Brotherhood knight approached hesitantly. "Commander Shepard, we thank you. Without your people, we would have fallen." "We fight together or die alone," Shepard replied simply. "That's true in any universe." Elder Lyons limped over, his armor barely holding together. "Commander, I don't know what kind of training your people have, but you just killed a behemoth. That's unprecedented. In 30 years of fighting these creatures, we've never managed that with infantry alone." "Teamwork and superior firepower," Garrus said, his voice carrying dry humor, "works every time." But Shepard was staring at the dead behemoth, thinking about its final words. Fortress falls. Humans die. Not just aggression, strategy, planning. "Elder," Shepard said slowly, "the supermutants have never been this organized before, have they?" "No," Lyons admitted. "Today was different, coordinated, intelligent, like someone was directing them." "Because someone was," Shepard concluded. "That behemoth was smart enough to speak in complex sentences, to plan a siege, to wait for the perfect moment, which means somewhere out there's a super mutant leader even more intelligent. And now we've just killed their field commander." Sarah's expression went grim, "which means they'll retaliate. Harder, smarter." "Let them," Grunt said, still grinning despite his injuries. "I need a rematch." But Shepard knew the truth. They'd won 2 battles in 1 day against the Enclave and the supermutants. They'd proven themselves to the Wasteland, but victories had costs, resources depleted, personnel exhausted, and somewhere in the ruins, enemies were learning, adapting, planning their next move. The Normandy crew had survived one apocalypse only to land in another, but this time they weren't just surviving, they were fighting back. The Normandy's medical bay had never been this crowded. Dr. Chakwas moved between patients with practiced efficiency, but her expression was drawn with exhaustion. 3 days of constant combat had pushed everyone to their limits, physically, mentally, and in terms of resources that grew scarcer by the hour. "Medigel reserves at 23%, she reported to Shepard, who stood in the doorway surveying the wounded. "Thermal clips down to our last 2 crates. And Commander, I'm rationing medical supplies that were meant to last months. At this rate, we'll be using wasteland medicine within a week." Shepard nodded grimly. Wasteland medicine meant stimpaks, crude injections that healed through aggressive cellular regeneration, but caused long-term damage. It meant radiation medications that were barely effective. It meant watching people suffer from injuries that Alliance medicine could cure in minutes. "Do what you can, Doctor," Shepard said. "We'll find more supplies somehow." But even Shepard's confidence was wearing thin. They'd won battles, earned the Brotherhood's respect, and proven they could defend themselves. But winning was bleeding them dry. Every fight depleted irreplaceable resources. Every injury reminded them that they were truly alone. EDI's voice cut through Shepard's thoughts. "Commander, you have a visitor. Elder Lyons requests an immediate meeting in the conference room. He has brought unexpected company." Shepard found the Elder waiting with 2 figures who made the Normandy crew instinctively reach for weapons. One was a super mutant, but different from the rage-filled monsters they'd fought. This one wore makeshift clothing, carried no weapons, and its eyes showed intelligence without hostility. The other was human, but wrong. Skin too smooth, movements too precise. A synth, if Shepard's Wasteland education was correct. An artificial human. "Commander Shepard," Elder Lyons began carefully, "allow me to introduce Fox and Harkness. They have come with information about Vault 87. Information we desperately need." The super mutant named Fox spoke, his voice surprisingly articulate. "Commander, I know what you're thinking. I am a super mutant, yes. But I am not your enemy. I was once human, mutated by the experiments in Vault 87. Unlike my brethren, I retained my intelligence, my humanity, and I have lived in that vault. I know its secrets." "Why tell us?" Shepard asked bluntly. "Why help humans fight your own kind?" "Because they are not my kind," Fox replied with quiet intensity. "What the Master created in Vault 87 is an abomination. Humans kidnapped, forcibly mutated, their minds broken and remade into engines of violence. The intelligence you saw in the behemoth, that was the Master's work. He is building an army, Commander, not of mindless brutes, but of intelligent, coordinated soldiers. And when that army is ready, it will sweep across the wasteland like a plague." "The Master?" Miranda asked, her tactical mind already processing implications. "A super mutant unlike any other," the synth Harkness supplied. His voice was flat, mechanical, the opposite of Fox's emotional delivery. "I've gathered intelligence on him from escaped prisoners and Brotherhood reconnaissance. He was one of the first mutations. Retaining full intelligence and gaining something more. Charisma, strategic brilliance, and absolute ruthlessness. He controls the vault and the mutation process. Every human captured becomes another soldier in his army." "How many has he created?" Shepard demanded. "Unknown," Fox admitted, "but the vault is massive and he's been operating for years. Hundreds, certainly, perhaps thousands." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The attacks they'd faced were just reconnaissance, testing defenses. The real threat was still growing, hidden in the depths of Vault 87. "We need to hit him now," Sarah Lyons said, slamming her fist on the table. "Before his army is ready, a surgical strike. Get in, kill the Master, destroy the mutation chambers." "Suicide," Elder Lyons countered. "Vault 87 is deep underground, surrounded by lethal radiation and filled with hundreds of super mutants. We don't have the forces for a frontal assault." "Then we don't go in the front," Garrus said, studying the vault schematics that Fox had provided. "Every fortress has weak points, service tunnels, ventilation shafts, maintenance access. We find a back door, we go in quiet, and we strike before they know we're there." "A small team," Shepard agreed, the plan forming. "Fast, lethal, and expendable if necessary. We can't risk the Normandy's entire crew, but we can't ignore this threat either." "I will guide you," Fox offered. "I know the vault's layout. I know where the Master conducts his experiments. And I have personal reasons for wanting him dead." Shepard studied the super mutant. Trust was earned in the wasteland through actions, not words. But Fox's eyes held something Shepard recognized, the need for redemption, for making right what had been done to him. "All right," Shepard decided, "we assemble a strike team, small, mobile, heavy firepower. Our goal isn't to clear the vault, it's to kill the Master and destroy his mutation capabilities. Hit hard, get out fast." "I'm going," Grunt stated flatly. It wasn't a request. As am I, Garrus added. Someone needs to watch your back, Shepard. I'll provide biotic support, Miranda said. If we're going underground against overwhelming numbers, we'll need every advantage. Jack cracked her knuckles, dark energy flickering. If you think I'm sitting this out, you're insane. I've been waiting to really cut loose. Sarah Lyons stepped forward. The Brotherhood is sending a team too. This is our fight as much as yours. I'm leading them personally. 6 operators plus Fox as guide, Shepard calculated. We'll need equipment, radiation suits, heavy weapons, and whatever explosives the Brotherhood can spare. When can we move? Dawn, Elder Lion said. We'll provide a vertibird for transport, captured from the Enclave and retrofitted. It'll get you close to the vault without alerting every super mutant in the region. But Commander, understand what you're planning. If you fail, if the Master captures you, he'll learn about the Normandy, our technology, and our capabilities, Shepard finished. Which is why we don't get captured. We succeed or we die trying. The vertibird's interior rattled with turbulence as it skimmed low over the wasteland. Dawn painted the ruins in shades of gray and orange, shadows stretching like grasping hands. Shepard sat across from Fox, studying the super mutant who'd volunteered to guide them into hell. You were human once, Shepard said. Do you remember your name? Your life before? Fox was quiet for a long moment. Fragments, a child's laughter, the smell of clean water, nothing concrete. The mutation process destroys most memories, leaves only rage and hunger. I held on to my mind through sheer will and isolation. The Master wanted to break me, make me a commander in his army. I refused, so he locked me away for years. Now I will have my revenge. Revenge is a poor motivator, Shepard observed. It makes you reckless. Then call it justice, Fox replied. Every human the Master captures becomes what I am, a monster. I will stop him or I will die trying. Either way, I find peace. The vertibird shuddered as it descended, the pilot's voice crackling over the intercom. LZ in sight. Heavy radiation readings. You've got maybe 4 hours before your suits fail. After that, you're dead men walking. They dropped into a collapsed section of DC's metro system, the tunnels stretching into darkness like the throat of some massive beast. The radiation counter on Shepard's suit was already clicking steadily, not immediately lethal, but accumulating with every breath. Vault entrance is 2 kilometers through these tunnels, Fox said, his massive frame barely fitting through the passages. Stay close. Super mutants patrol these areas, and in the dark, they have the advantage. They moved in tactical formation, Garrus on point with thermal vision, Grunt bringing up the rear, Miranda and Jack in the center, providing biotic support. Sarah's Brotherhood team flanked them, their power armor servos whining softly in the oppressive silence. The tunnels were a nightmare landscape. Pre-war advertisements for products that no longer existed lined the walls. Skeletons still clutched briefcases and purses, frozen in the moment the bombs fell, and everywhere the green glow of radiation seeped from cracks in the concrete. Contact, Garrus whispered, his rifle tracking movement ahead. 3 super mutants heavily armed. Patrol pattern suggests they're expecting trouble. Take them quiet, Shepard ordered. We can't alert the vault. What followed was surgical violence. Garrus's rifle spoke once, and a super mutant's head exploded. Jack gestured, and another was lifted off its feet, neck snapping from the biotic force before it could scream. The third turned to run. But Grunt was faster. A claymore blast at close range reduced it to component parts. "Clear," Shepard confirmed. "Move up." They found the vault entrance exactly where Fox had described. A massive blast door set into reinforced concrete, marked with a faded 87 in pre-war paint. But the door was open, inviting, waiting. "It's a trap," Miranda stated flatly. "They know we're coming." "Of course they do," Fox agreed. "The Master knows everything that happens in his domain. He's been expecting retaliation since you killed his behemoth commander. This is his answer. Come into my fortress and see if you can survive." Sarah checked her laser rifle's charge. "So we walk into an ambush. Great plan, Commander." "We adapt," Shepard said, checking their own weapon. "The Master expects us to be cautious, to hesitate, so we do the opposite. We charge straight at him, fast and violent. We don't give him time to respond." "Aggressive tactics," Grunt approved. "Finally, a plan I understand." They entered Vault 87, and the true horror revealed itself. The vault was a factory of suffering. Chambers lined the walls, each containing a human in various stages of mutation, screaming, begging, or already silent as the FEV virus rewrote their DNA. The smell was overwhelming, even through environmental suits. Blood, chemicals, and the distinctive reek of supermutant physiology. "They're still alive," Jack whispered, staring at a chamber where a woman's face was visible beneath growing green skin. "They're conscious during the whole process. The Master believes consciousness during mutation produces superior results," Fox said, his voice heavy with old pain. "He is scientifically brilliant and morally monstrous. Come, his laboratory is deeper in the vault's core." They descended through levels of horror. Super mutants guarded key passages, but they were sloppy, confident in their numbers and their master's protection. The strike team moved like ghosts, killing silently when possible, overwhelming with firepower when stealth failed. And then they reached the laboratory. It was a cathedral to mad science. Vats of glowing green liquid lined the walls, each large enough to hold a human. Computer banks from the pre-war era had been jury-rigged with wasteland technology, creating a hybrid system that shouldn't work, but somehow did. And at the center, studying a holographic display of genetic sequences, stood the Master. He was 12 feet tall, muscles like braided steel cables, skin a darker green that suggested advanced mutation, but his eyes were the most disturbing feature, clear, intelligent, and utterly inhuman in their cold calculation. He wore the remnants of a pre-war scientist's coat, modified to fit his massive frame. "Commander Shepard," the Master said, his voice surprisingly cultured, "I have been expecting you. The strangers from the stars come to challenge my work. How predictable." "Your work?" Shepard replied, rifle aimed at the monster's head. "You mean kidnapping humans and turning them into monsters?" "I mean elevating humanity beyond its fragile biological limitations," the Master corrected. "Look at me, Commander. I am stronger, more resilient, and more intelligent than any baseline human. I am immune to radiation, to disease, to the weakness that dooms your species. I offer salvation through transformation. You offer slavery and horror," Fox growled. "I've seen your salvation, Master. I've lived it." The Master's expression hardened. "Fox, my greatest failure. You had such potential, but you clung to your humanity like a drowning man clutches driftwood. Now you guide my enemies to me. How disappointing." "Enough talk," Grunt rumbled, advancing. "You die now." The Master smiled, a terrible expression on his monstrous face. "No, you do." He pressed a button and the laboratory exploded into violence. The walls erupted with supermutants, not from doors but from hidden chambers built into the vault's structure. The Master had turned his laboratory into a kill box, and Shepard's team was standing in the center of it. "Ambush!" Sarah screamed, her laser rifle already firing. "Defensive positions!" But there were no defensive positions. Supermutants poured from every angle, wielding miniguns, missile launchers, and super sledges. The laboratory became a maelstrom of violence and chaos. Garrus dove behind a computer bank, his mantis singing its deadly song. 20 contacts, 30. I can't get an accurate count. They're everywhere. Jack planted her feet and screamed, dark energy exploding outward in a biotic nova. The shockwave caught a dozen supermutants mid-charge, sending them flying like leaves in a hurricane. But more kept coming. An endless green tide. "Fall back to the entrance," Miranda commanded, her tactical mind processing the impossible odds. "We can't hold this position." "No retreat," the Master bellowed, his voice carrying over the chaos. "You came to kill me, Commander Shepard. Here I stand. Try." Grunt charged the Master with a Krogan war cry that echoed off the vault walls. The two titans collided with bone-crushing force, Grunt's head ridge cracking against the Master's chest. The super mutant leader barely staggered, then backhanded Grunt with such force that the Krogan was thrown through a mutation vat. Green liquid and shattered glass exploded across the floor. "Grunt!" Shepard shouted, firing burst after burst at the Master. The mass accelerator rounds punched into the mutant's flesh, drawing blood. But he shrugged off damage that should have been fatal. "Your weapons are impressive," the Master acknowledged, advancing toward Shepard with terrifying purpose. "Pre-war technology? No, something more, something from beyond this world. I will dissect your corpse and learn your secrets, Commander. Then I will dissect your ship." A Brotherhood Paladin charged in, power armor servos whining, laser rifle blazing. The Master caught the weapon mid-burst, crushed it with one hand, then grabbed the Paladin's helmet and twisted. The sickening crack was audible even over the gunfire. The body dropped and the Master advanced. Sarah Lyons emptied her entire power cell into the Master's face. The laser fire scorched his skin, burned away one eye, but he kept coming. He grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground with one massive hand. "Brave," he said, studying her as she struggled. "Defiant. You would make an excellent commander after mutation. I'll keep you alive for the VATS." "Like hell," Sarah choked out, drawing a plasma grenade from her belt. She activated it and jammed it against the Master's chest. His eye widened, the one that wasn't a burned ruin. He released Sarah and dove backward just as the grenade detonated. The plasma burst carved a crater in his torso, exposing bone and organ. The Master roared in pain and fury, finally feeling something that hurt. "Now," Shepard commanded, "concentrated fire!" Every weapon opened up simultaneously. Assault rifles, laser weapons, biotics, and Grunt, who'd pulled himself from the wreckage covered in FEV fluid but very much alive, charged back in with his claymore roaring. The combined assault drove the Master backward, step by bloody step. But his super mutants were overwhelming the team. A Brotherhood knight went down under a super sledge's crushing blow. Jack was bleeding from a dozen wounds, her biotic barriers flickering. Miranda's Omni tool sparked, damaged by a stray round. They were being buried under sheer numbers. "Fox!" Shepard shouted. "The mutation chambers! Can we overload them?" The friendly super mutant understood immediately. "Yes!" If we rupture the FEV containment, the explosion will level this entire laboratory, but we'll never reach the controls through this press. Then we make a path, Shepard decided. The plan was insane, suicidal, and their only chance. Miranda, Jack, I need the biggest biotic explosion you can generate, right at the Master's position. Everyone else, suppress fire and prepare to run. That'll kill us too if we're not careful, Miranda warned, already gathering energy. Then we'll be careful. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark. Miranda and Jack combined their biotic power in a synchronized release that distorted reality itself. The laboratory's floor buckled, metal twisted, and the Master was caught in the epicenter. His scream was inhuman as the biotic forces tore at his molecular structure, bones cracking, flesh ripping, but he was stronger than they'd imagined. Through sheer will and mutated biology, the Master fought through the assault. Bleeding from every orifice, half his body crushed. He still stood. I will not fall, he roared, charging toward Shepard with his remaining strength. Garrus fired. The mantis round struck the Master's damaged knee, and the leg buckled. He fell, crashing to the floor with earthquake force. But he was already rising, regeneration kicking in despite the catastrophic damage. Shepard sprinted for the mutation chamber controls, super mutants grabbing at them. A massive hand caught Shepard's ankle, dragging them back. Shepard twisted, firing point blank into the mutant's face until it released. Scrambling forward, bleeding and exhausted, Shepard reached the control panel. Fox, how do I overload this? The super mutant limped over, his own body riddled with wounds from protecting the team. Pull the main coolant line, then reverse the pressure valves. The FEV will superheat and become unstable. You'll have 60 seconds to evacuate. Do it, Shepard commanded. Fox's massive hands tore into the control panel, ripping away safety mechanisms with casual strength. Warning lights began flashing throughout the laboratory. A synthesized voice echoed from ancient speakers. Critical malfunction, containment breach imminent, evacuate immediately. Retreat, Shepard bellowed. Everyone out, now! The strike team ran, fighting through super mutants who'd suddenly realized their Master's laboratory was about to become a bomb. The Master, still struggling to stand, watched them flee with his remaining eye. No, he whispered, then screamed. No, my work, decades of research, you cannot. His words were cut off as the first FEV containment vat exploded. Green liquid vaporized instantly, becoming a toxic cloud that dissolved everything it touched. The Master, caught in the blast, began to melt, his enhanced biology finally overwhelmed by the concentrated, mutagenic virus. Fall back to the entrance, Garrus shouted, physically dragging a wounded Brotherhood knight. This whole level is coming down. They ran through corridors that were collapsing behind them, pursued by explosions that grew with each ruptured containment system. Super mutants, realizing they were doomed, either fled with them or turned to fight in final defiance. Shepard didn't stop to engage. Survival was all that mattered. The vault entrance appeared ahead, blessed daylight visible beyond. They burst through just as the chain reaction reached critical mass. The explosion that followed was apocalyptic. A pillar of green fire erupting from the vault entrance, the shockwave flattening buildings for blocks around. Shepard's team was thrown by the blast, tumbling across irradiated concrete. When the world stopped spinning, Shepard pulled themselves up, taking inventory. Grunt was laughing despite burns covering half his body. Garrus had lost a mandible plate but was already checking his rifle. Miranda was unconscious but breathing. Jack was swearing in a continuous stream, which meant she was fine. Sarah Lyons pulled off her helmet, blood running down her face. Of her 5-person team, 3 remained. She stared at the smoking crater where Vault 87 had been, processing the cost. "We did it," she said numbly. "The Master is dead. The mutation lab destroyed. We actually did it." "At what price?" one of her surviving paladins asked, looking at their fallen comrades. Fox stood at the crater's edge, his massive frame silhouetted against the flames. "Freedom," he said quietly. "The price was freedom. For all those who would have been mutated. For all those still enslaved by fear of the Master's army. Today, that fear dies." The vertibird descended through the smoke, its pilot's voice urgent. "We need to extract now. That explosion will draw every hostile in the region." They loaded wounded and climbed aboard, the aircraft straining under the weight of power armor and super mutant mass. As they lifted off, Shepard looked back at the ruins. Somewhere in that inferno, the Master had died, his dreams of forced evolution burning with him. But the cost had been steep. 3 Brotherhood Knights dead, their Medigel reserves nearly exhausted, ammunition critical, and Shepard knew with cold certainty that this was just one battle in an endless war. The Normandy's conference room felt different now. Scars marked the walls where emergency repairs had been made. The crew that gathered was smaller, some recovering in medical, others standing watch. But they were still standing, still fighting. Elder Lyons stood before them, his face showing every one of his years. "Commander Shepard, what your team accomplished today will be remembered for generations. The Master was the Capital Wasteland's greatest threat. His army would have swept across the region, mutating or killing everyone in its path. You stopped that. You saved countless lives." "We lost good people doing it," Shepard replied, thinking of the Brotherhood Knights who died in the vault. "We did," Lyons agreed. "But that's the nature of war in the Wasteland. We fight, we sacrifice, and sometimes we win. Today was a win, Commander. Don't diminish it." Sarah Lyons stepped forward, and Shepard saw something new in her expression, respect earned through shared combat. "The Brotherhood is in your debt, Commander. Your technology, your tactics, your courage. Without all 3, we would have failed. So I'm here to make an offer. Official alliance. Not temporary, not provisional. Full partnership. We provide resources, intelligence, and military support. You provide technological assistance and tactical expertise. Together we make the Capital Wasteland a place where people can actually live, not just survive." Shepard looked at their crew, Garrus giving a slight nod, Miranda calculating odds, Grunt grinning at the prospect of more fights, Jack shrugging with indifference that masked approval. "Alliance accepted," Shepard said, extending a hand. "But Elder, we need to be clear about something. We're not conquerors. We're not here to rule or reshape this world in our image. We're survivors trying to make the best of an impossible situation. If we're going to work together, it has to be as equals." "Agreed," Elder Lyons said, taking the hand. "The Brotherhood has spent decades trying to save this region alone. It's time we admitted we need help. Your help." EDI's voice interrupted. "Commander, long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity, multiple signals converging on our position. Classification, uncertain. They do not match known hostile patterns." "Here we go again," Joker muttered over the comm. Shepard moved to the viewport. In the distance, through the radioactive haze, shapes were approaching. Not raiders, not super mutants, not enclave. Something else. Groups of wastelanders, caravans, even what looked like representatives from distant settlements. "Word travels fast in the wasteland," Sarah observed. "You killed a behemoth, defeated the Enclave, and destroyed the Master's laboratory, all in less than a week. Every faction from here to the Mojave is going to want to know who you are, what you want, and whether you're a threat or an opportunity." "Let them come," Shepard decided. "We've proven we can defend ourselves. Now let's prove we can build something worth defending. EDI, open a broadcast on all Wasteland frequencies." "Channel open, Shepard." Shepard took a breath, choosing words carefully. "This is Commander Shepard of the Normandy, broadcasting to all settlements in the Capital Wasteland. We're not your enemies. We're not here to conquer or exploit. We're strangers who crashed on your world, and we're trying to survive just like you. But we're not just survivors. We're builders. We have technology that can purify water, treat radiation sickness, and defend against threats. We're willing to share that technology with anyone who approaches in peace. The wasteland has been at war with itself for 2 centuries. Maybe it's time to try something different. Maybe it's time to rebuild." Silence on the channel. Then, one by one, responses began coming in. Some suspicious, some hopeful, some hostile. But they were talking, communicating. It was a start. "Ambitious speech," Garrus commented. "Think they'll listen?" "Some will," Shepard replied. "Some won't. But the ones who do, we'll help them. And maybe slowly, this wasteland becomes a little less hostile." Miranda was already working her Omni tool. "I'm running projections. With the Brotherhood's resources and our technology, we can establish water purification networks for major settlements within 3 months, medical assistance programs within 6. If we can maintain security and keep hostile factions at bay, we might actually stabilize this region." "Big if," Jack pointed out. "The Enclave's still out there. Raiders don't care about rebuilding, and who knows what other threats this world has waiting?" "Then we deal with them," Shepard said simply. "One threat at a time. One victory at a time. That's how you survive an apocalypse. You don't try to fix everything at once. You make it through today, then you get up and do it again tomorrow." Grunt nodded approvingly. "Simple, direct, I like it." Elder Lyons moved to the viewport, staring out at the approaching wastelanders. "You know, Commander, when your ship fell from the sky, I thought it was the end of everything we'd built. Strange technology, unknown capabilities, and foreigners who might destroy us all. But maybe you're the best thing that's happened to the Capital Wasteland in 200 years. Or the worst," Sarah added with dark humor. "Time will tell." "Time always does," Shepard agreed. The sun was setting over the wasteland, casting long shadows across the ruins. The Normandy stood battered but defiant, a monument to survival and adaptation. Its crew, stranded, outnumbered, and fighting with diminishing resources, had done the impossible. They'd survived, they'd fought back, and now, maybe, they'd build something new. Somewhere in the ruins, the Enclave was regrouping. Raiders were plotting. New threats were emerging from the wasteland's endless dangers. But the Normandy's crew had faced extinction-level threats before. They'd fought collectors, reapers, and galactic conspiracies. A post-nuclear wasteland was just another battlefield, and battlefields were where they excelled. "Commander," Joker's voice crackled over the comm, "I've been thinking, we're stuck here, right? No way home, no FTL drive, no Element Zero. But we've got this entire world to explore, different continents, different wastelands, different factions. This isn't the end of our journey, it's just a detour." Shepard smiled. A real smile, the first in days. A detour through hell, maybe. But you're right, Joker. We're explorers, survivors, warriors. This universe doesn't have mass relays or FTL travel, so we'll explore it the old-fashioned way, one territory at a time. Building alliances as we go, Miranda added, warming to the idea. Spreading technology and stability. Killing anything that gets in our way, Grunt contributed cheerfully. Exactly, Shepard confirmed. The Normandy may never fly among the stars again, but it'll fly across this world. And everywhere we go, we'll make things a little better, a little safer, a little more hopeful. Until next time, the multiverse awaits, Garrus quoted with dry humor. No, Shepard corrected. The multiverse already got us. Now this universe is stuck with us, and we're going to make sure it remembers the Normandy. Outside, the first Wastelanders were arriving at the perimeter, cautious but curious. Brotherhood paladins moved to greet them, weapons lowered but ready. The work of building trust would be slow, dangerous, and filled with setbacks, but it would happen. Because the Normandy's crew had proven something fundamental. They didn't just survive apocalypses, they changed them. The Capital Wasteland would never be the same. And across this broken world, in vaults and settlements and hidden bunkers, people would hear stories of the strangers from the stars, stories of impossible technology and unbreakable courage, stories that would become legends. And legends in the wasteland meant hope. The Normandy SR-2 would never reach the Omega-4 relay's destination. Instead, it had found something else, a world dying slowly, a people fighting endlessly, and a chance to make a difference on a scale even Commander Shepard hadn't imagined. Stranded across dimensional boundaries, the crew had adapted with characteristic determination. They'd turned a crash site into a fortress, made allies of strangers, and defeated threats that had plagued the Capital Wasteland for generations. But their journey was far from over. The Enclave remained a threat, regrouping and planning new offensives. Raiders and hostile factions watched with predatory interest. And across the continent, other powers stirred. New Vegas, the Commonwealth, the Pit, all waiting to see what these star-born strangers would do next. Resources were dwindling. Element Zero was gone, meaning biotics would eventually fail. Medigel reserves depleted with every injury. Thermal clips for mass accelerators would run out eventually. The Normandy's crew would have to adapt completely to wasteland technology or find ways to manufacture their own. It would be a slow transformation from galactic soldiers to wasteland legends. Yet hope remained. Water purification designs were already being distributed to settlements. Medical knowledge was saving lives. Tactical training was making Brotherhood forces more effective. And most importantly, the crew had proven that survival didn't mean abandoning principles. They'd fought for others, not just themselves. They'd chosen to build rather than simply take. Commander Shepard stood on the Normandy's hull as night fell, watching lights flicker to life in Megaton. The settlement that had been barely surviving now had clean water flowing from new purification units. Children who would have died from radiation poisoning were being treated with techniques from another universe. It wasn't the galaxy they'd left behind, but it was something worth fighting for. The stars above were unfamiliar, constellations that no human from their universe had ever seen. But they were still stars, still destinations, still reminders that even grounded, the Normandy's spirit of exploration remained unbroken. "Commander," EDI's voice was soft, almost contemplative. I have been analyzing our situation. Statistically, our odds of long-term survival remain low, but you have consistently defied statistical probability. Perhaps this is simply another impossible challenge you will overcome. We will overcome, EDI, Shepard corrected, all of us, together. The Capital Wasteland stretched endlessly into the dark, full of danger, full of challenge, full of possibility. The Normandy's crew had survived one apocalypse, only to land in another, but they were still standing, still fighting, still making a difference, and in the wasteland, that was victory enough.